welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we're going to be talking about the SUQQU pre-holiday collection. So this has already been released at Selfridges, and as always with SUQQU launches, things sell out very quickly. They do restock. They have restocked partially, a couple of times already. You kind of just have to keep checking to find what you want. But I ordered from the counter so that I didn't have to bother with all of that hassle. So if you're interested in that, I will leave the information to order down at the counter down below in the description box. Basically, you just send them an email with what you want. And I ended up picking up the pre-holiday sets. I picked up 2 of the sets. So Selfridges has all of the items individually. They also have a luxury kit that has all of the makeup items. So you've got all of the 4 lipsticks, the blush palette, the 2 eyeshadow palettes, and I think that's everything. So all of those can come in the luxury kit, but then Selfridges also has 2 other options. There's a blush kit and an eyes kit. And I picked up both of those because they come with some of the SUQQU brushes. For those of you who aren't familiar with SUQQU brushes, there are 2 types so far. SUQQU is starting to switch over to synthetic brushes. So the SUQQU swirl brushes are being discontinued and they'll be replaced with synthetic versions in the future. These, however, are exclusive to Selfridges, and these are goat hair. So the goat hair ones you can only get at Selfridges. And so although right now the SUQQU pre-holiday set is currently at Selfridges, it will be available at Cult Beauty, Harrods, Liberty very soon. And those sets containing the Selfridges brushes will not be available. Those will be exclusive to Selfridges. I do not know whether or not some of these other retailers will have their own versions of sets with maybe some different brushes or different products or something. But these particular sets I picked up will be exclusive to Selfridges. So let me show you how these came. I actually took the components out already, but the kits, there is a little bit of a price discount when you buy the sets. So when you buy the luxury set, it's like, I forget, a £5 difference or something. So you're not really getting a discount on the holiday items. But if you're buying the blush sets or the eyeshadow set, there is a difference, and essentially, it's bringing the cost down. I forget what the percentage is. It wasn't the same for both of them, but somewhere around like 25%, right? So I end up doing that. I think really the discount is off of the brushes and not off of the new items. So the sets come in these boxes. I think they're really pretty. You've got, I don't know, I just think they're really pretty. And you have a super strong magnet here. Like, I'm telling you, this is such a strong magnet that when I picked this up, I was like, you can see the back, how it has this lid here and here. This is the side that opens, but I'm like pulling everywhere, trying to figure out how to open this because it is so heavy duty. It is a thick cardboard box, and inside you have a postcard with the products in this collection and then the contents. So this was my blush kit. So you get the blush brush and the cheek palette in 103. And yeah, then everything comes in tissue paper, and it was all in here in the boxes. I removed that. So the boxes for the eye kit and the blush kit are exactly the same size. So this is it. So we're gonna start off by swatching the cheek compact. And I have compacts 1 and 2 as well, 101 and 102, that I can show you. So this is the top row. This last shade here is a highlighter. You can see it actually looks kind of yellow in the pan, but it's a really soft pale gold. There is a brighter yellow tint to it, but it's not as yellow as I was afraid it was going to be. And this is the bottom row. Again, that last one is a highlight, and you can see it's a soft pink, but if you look at the way the light hits it, you can see like a tiny, tiny reflection of gold in there. So out of these shades, this first shade here is gonna look a little bit more orangey. Sorry, that's this one here. So you can see it's kind of like a little bit like a pumpkin with a little bit of red mixed into it. But it's dusty. It's not going to be a bright shade. And you can see that all of these blushes actually have more of a satin finish. There's a little shimmer to them. Then the middle shade here is a medium brown. Okay, so I can use it technically as a bronzer. There is shimmer in there. You can see there's some gold shimmer, but it works beautifully as a blush as well. And then you have this pale gold highlight. This shade down here, it's almost more, look at it in the pan, it's that shade here. It's kind of like a brick red with a little bit, there looks to be like a little bit of a deep plum and some chocolate kind of mixed into it. And then this shade here is more of a deeper mauve shade with a little bit of plum. And then we have this soft pink highlighter, which has gold reflect in it. Now, before we move on to the 101 and 102, this is the Chanel Jersey blush. I just wanted to show you that how that compares to the brown shade here. Jersey has a lot more pink in it. This might be more similar to the ombre shade that came out. I did not pick that one up, but you can see that it does have some like gold shimmer in it. There's a little bit of a sheen. So it actually looks really beautiful on the face. You don't need highlight with it, in my opinion, or, you know, unless you're going for something brighter. So this is the cheek palette in 101 here. So you can see that, you know, at first glance, they kind of look similar. Let's go ahead and swatch these. Now, the highlighters on the 101 and 102 palettes are a different formula. These new ones are more sheer. They're a little bit lighter. Okay, and here you go. So you can see that the highlighters are definitely more pigmented in the 101 palette. This shade is probably the closest to this, but it's really more of a mix of these. Just like these two here mixed make more of this shade here. So it's kind of like a combination. And then this is the 102 compared with the new 103. And the formula on these were a little bit different to me as well, because these blushes actually go on a little bit more softly for me. They're deeper colors, but they go on a little bit more softly. And I'm running out of space here, so we're gonna put these here. Okay, so again, these highlighters are gonna be that more pigmented formula like in the 101 palette. And you can see that the shades of blush in here don't actually match with 103 at all. I actually think it's closest to mixing shades from 101 than it really is from anything in 102. But you can see there are some similarities. The biggest difference to me is that the pigmentation level on the cheeks is stronger in 101 and 103. 103 actually seems more like a mix. The formulas seem more like a mix of the 101 and 102. It's like perfect, you know, you can build it up more. They're pretty pigmented, but you can put them on sheerly. The new highlighters are really nice because I think they're a little bit more versatile. It's easier to get a lighter wash of highlight on there depending on what brush you use and so forth. So I just think they're a little bit easier to work with without going like too blingy. And because they're a little bit softer in coloration, you don't have to worry about the tones of it so much, the undertones, because you don't have quite as much pigment. See, these are almost more opaque like an eyeshadow compared to this new formula. So these are the blushes. Okay, so moving on to the eyeshadow palettes, this one here is 108. And I really like this palette. Let me show you all 4 shades. Now, at first I thought it would be very much like the 03 palette from the SUQQU Permanent line. So let me swatch that here. So this is the 03 and this is the new one. So you can see that they do have kind of a similar color story, but let's compare what these shades look like side by side. So this is 03. So here's our topper shade. You can see it's gonna be more gold, whereas this is a little bit more silvery. This is going to be much warmer in tone. You know, it's actually, there's like a lot of yellow in there. And then this is actually more bronzy than gold. And then the last shade here is more of a chocolate. So the shades, you know, they look kind of similar in pan, but they're very different. I also wanted to compare the brown to the brown in the 06 palette. So let's just put this here. You can see that those are going to be pretty close. The one in 06 is ever so slightly cooler, but it's not noticeable. They're almost exactly the same. Now, as for the 109 palette, this is the 109. There isn't one that looks exactly like this, but I do have a couple that, you know, this reminded me of one of the summer palettes from this year. So this is 109, and you can see this topper has like a grayish blue base. It's like a steel blue base to it. So it's not going to be super opaque, but you're still going to get some color. You have a soft, cool tone, dusky lilac. There's like, it has a little bit of a grayish hue on the eye. And then this shade here, it's like a rosy orange shade. And then this shimmery gray here, you can see it's going to be softer in color than this. I'm not sure if you can really tell here, but there's some like pink shimmer in there. So this is the 107 quad that came out in the summer. And this is the one that reminded me the most of it. Let me just show you those side by side here. So this is the new one. This is 107. So you can see that in the pan again, they're going to look fairly similar. So here's 107. Oh, I guess I didn't get that swatch all the way off. That is from the blush, so just ignore that, please. But you can see color-wise, they're pretty different. We have more of a dusky rose instead of the lavender. This is going to be a brighter shade, and it's more sheer, whereas this has a little bit more color to it. And then we have kind of this more browner shade and this deep plum. Now, I did look through all of the other SUQQU palettes with this formula, and there's nothing quite like any of the other shades in it. Like this pink shade, it's kind of a cross between ones that you would find in others, because it's got like a little bit of that orangey look to it and a little bit of the pink look. So it's not really that similar to any of the other ones. This shade here, you know, that's obviously going to be most similar to this one, which is a little bit cooler in tone and deeper. So this one's got more gray in it. There is a little bit of brown in the base for both of them, but this one's more brown, this one's more gray. And let's take a look at, I want to look at a couple Surratt shades as well. All right, so just a couple of Surratt shades. This one here is Ombre, which is like, it's my favorite Surratt shadow. Let's put it right here, right underneath. You can see that it's going to be a little bit cooler in tone. There's a little bit more gray in it than the one in the SUQQU palette, but I have another one to show you called Grillage. This one is a little bit warmer. So let's put that one right here. You can see that one's actually a little bit more similar, but again, it's still a little bit cooler in tone than the SUQQU. The SUQQU has a touch of red in it. And then this shade here is Rosatra. And I have to say, Surratt doesn't really have any super like shimmery shades except for like the one shade Star. So there aren't really anything to mimic the finish, but that's the closest shade I have to that pink. But you can see it's not quite right. This definitely has more like that coppery orange kind of tone to it in comparison. All right, and then for lipsticks, there are 4 lipsticks that came out. There are 2 of the Vibrant Rich and 2 of the sheer mattes. I picked up one of the sheer mattes in 105, which is a red. So let me show you that. And I also have one of the reds from Permanent line. Now, one thing to note, when you buy these, they don't come with a true cap. You have to buy the cap separately, or it comes like this. So I didn't purchase a cap. Honestly, I kind of forgot. So yeah. And then this one is the red from the Permanent line. This one's 09. You can see this one's going to be cooler in tone. It's more of, you know, what you would think of as a ruby red in comparison to this one that's going to be a bit warmer. Now, if you buy the cap, which I bought for this one, this is what the cap looks like. They're not magnetic, but they go on snugly. And just for comparison, this is the Givenchy Le Rouge Sheer Velvet, or Le Rouge Deep Velvet, sorry, in 36. So I just wanted to show you how the tones of that compare. I did order the Sheer Velvet in this shade in my Sephora order, so I'll have that soon. All right, so I'm gonna show you some demos. I have 2 looks with each of these eyeshadow palettes, along with swatches of all of the blush shades in each of the looks and some different lipsticks that I picked from the Sheer Matte Permanent line as well as this new red one. So I'll see you in a second, then we'll go over thoughts. All right, so on my skin, I have the Sislea Le Teint foundation with the Rhodial glass powder on top. We're gonna go into the very first shade with the SUQQU KZ4. Just gonna get a little bit of product up. You can actually see it on the brush, and it's pretty pigmented. So I'm just putting on a touch, and then I'm wiping the brush off on my cloth. All right, let's do the other side. So that's the first shade. I'm just gonna put a little bit more on this side. And we'll add a little bit more just so you can really see the impact of this shade. There's a little bit of a pearly sheen here. And this is what it looks like from a distance. So again, this is just the first shade. It kind of looks like I have highlighter on, but it's just the blush. You can see there's some radiance in there. I'm going to take the KZ03 into the yellow highlighter. And I'm not sure if this shade's going to work for me or not. I'm just using a little bit. I'll put that on. Oh, you know what? Surprisingly, that actually looks a lot better than I thought. You can see where I kind of went over the blush. It makes it a little bit orangier. But that's actually a really nice, like, pale golden shade. Yeah. So this is the blush and highlighter from a distance. All right, so I'm gonna go into the 108 palette. This is really pretty. I mean, I can see just looking at this that there are just a lot of options. I'm curious about this sparkly shade just kind of on its own. But you know what? I think let's keep it simple. Let's just do these two shades. So I'm gonna go ahead and this is the Kyredo large eyeshadow brush. I'm gonna go into the brown here with that. Just gonna get a little bit on here. And I'm focusing kind of in the crease, but I'm gonna dust it all over the lid as well. I like that shade. That's like gonna be a good like one and done for me actually. All right, so let's test this glittery shade. So we'll get a little bit on the brush. And then I also want to see how, oh, it's super pigmented. Wasn't sure if it would be or if it was going to be a little bit more topper-like, but nope. Look at that. Let's see what it does with finger application. Even more pigmented. Wow, you can get a seriously like gorgeous smoky eye with this, like nighttime sky kind of thing. Let's just buff that out a little bit. You can see even putting it on with the finger, you can kind of blend that out a little bit still. So just gonna make this even, add a little bit more to both eyes with the brush. This came out a bit deeper than I expected, so let's go in with the gold. I really didn't think that shade was going to be quite so pigmented. Just going to use my finger with a little bit of this metallic gold right in the center. You know what? I don't even really like that together. I'm just going to kind of brush that away. I don't like the gold there, actually. Wow, this sparkly shade is pretty awesome. All right, we're going to finish off the eye look with a little brightness. We're going to go into this shade with in the inner corner. Taking the Rephr 26 brush for this. I'm just twirling the brush in here. And we're just going to dab this in the inner corner here for a little brightness. That worked well. And then I'm going to go back into the matte brown for the lower lash line here. I'm just going to get a little bit more of this first shade and put this right above the brow here, just for a little sheen. I'm just going to take this Chanel eyeliner in number 88, Noir Intense, and put this right along the lash line. All right, so this is the eye look up close. I'm going to add some mascara, and I'll see you in a second. All right, so here is the final eye look from a distance, and I added on one of the new SUQQU Sheer Matte lipsticks. This is shade 01. This is one of the permanent shades, so it's not one of the limited edition ones from this collection. It's just a really nice, more warm tone nude. All right, so we're gonna move into this shade here, this more like purpley plummy shade, and we're gonna use the SUQQU blush brush. So I bought the set, and this came with it. And I do not have my foundation set here. This is the Sislea Le Temps foundation, just got a little bit more blush up. And I did not set it with any powder or anything, so this is it. So this is the plummy shade on my cheeks. No highlighter or anything yet. You can see the foundation I have on does have a little bit of like a luminosity to it. And I'm just gonna add a little highlight. So yesterday we played with the yellow highlighter with the KZ3 brush, but today we're gonna go in very softly using this fan brush. This is the Kyoto Premium Series fan brush. Just get a very light dusting. Yeah, it really looks more just like a soft gold. It doesn't really look yellow. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of this right under the brow. And then we're going back into the 108 palette today. All right, so we're gonna use the SUQQU eye brushes that came with the eye set. So this is the fluffy blender style brush. We're gonna go into the matte brown here and just going to put this in the crease. And then our major lid color, let's go with this gold today. And I'm going to use the Sonia G Worker Pro for this. And let's put this all over pretty much. So I'm leaving this inner portion open. I'm going to add the like ivory shade here. Just build this a little bit more. All right, so I wiped off the brush. We're gonna go into, I mean, it looks like white almost, or cream in comparison with these other shades, but really it's like a really soft gold, just very light. So we're gonna put this on the inner corner and brush it into the darker gold. Just going back with the crease. I have to say, I really like this combination. I think this palette is very good for having kind of like duos. You know, I think these two would be beautiful together. These two, you know, I think they're all beautiful. This shade is just good with everything, but it is deeper. So we're going to use this for liner today. So this is the other brush that comes in the eye set. You can see that it is slanted. So I'm just getting a little bit of that deep shade on there. We're going to put this on the upper lash line. Okay, and then I'm going to get just a tiny bit more of this and put it on the lower lash line, just on this outer half part. Okay, I wiped off the brush and now I'm going to go into, well, let's go into the gold. And just to get a little more emphasis in the inner corner, just using the flat side of this brush to just press a little bit more of the pale gold. All right, and we're gonna pair this with the 105 lipstick. So this is from this collection. So this is like one sheer layer. You can see how you can get that blurred effect, really soft looking. If you're afraid of reds, a great way to try it is with one of these more sheer lipsticks, and then we can build this up. So this is the final eye look from a distance. So again, this is the 108 quad and the 105 lipstick, and then we have that plummy shade on the blush with the yellow highlighter. All right, so I have on the Sisley La Teint foundation. Dust it lightly with the Rodeo glass powder. We're gonna go into, let's go into this brown shade, and we're gonna use the SUQQU blush brush that comes in the set. This is goat hair. And we're going to use this as blush, but I have tried it as bronzer and it works well that way. But look, you see that golden sheen in there? There is a sheen. There's a shimmer. Okay, I'm just going to buff this in a little bit more around the hairline here. And this is the Sonia G Smooth Buffer that I'm using. And you can see this shade really doesn't need a highlighter, in my opinion. It's got plenty of glisten on its own. Let me show you from a distance. So this is the brown blush, and you can see the golden shimmer in there. We'll have a little bit of highlighter just so you can see how they play together, but it doesn't really need one. So I think we'll go ahead and go into the pink highlighter with this. We're going to use the Chikuhodo KZ3 and just add a little bit of this on here. If you have warmer skin tone, the yellow would be really pretty, but I think for me, it's just too many warm things at once. But you can see this pink one still has a touch of gold. All right, so we're gonna go into the 109 palette. We're gonna start off in this like rosy shade, and you can see from the pan, it looks like it has more of a metallic finish. And I apologize, you can see a little bit of sparkle left from the last eye look. Usually I do my eye looks on separate days, but I really wanted to be able to get this one up. So I'm filming it over a couple days instead of over 4 days. So here it is. You can see there is like a bit of a metallic sheen there. You can see that reflection. And then we're going to go in with this purple with the Worker Pro from Sonia G right here on this like outer portion. Just want to see how light this is. It is a pretty light shade. I mean, here, let me put that all over the lid so you can kind of see that. I mean, that's actually a really pretty one and done shade. This top right corner seems to be like one and done heaven for me. All right, and then let's go into this blue. So very curious. I'm just picking up a little bit because I'm not sure how pigmented that is. I'm gonna just put this on top here. So that is like the lightest layer you can do. Let's take a look with a finger here. Got a little bit more here. So this is still like, it's sparkly like a traditional SUQQU topper, you know, the same amount of like scattered starlight and so forth, but you can definitely see that there is like a blue base to it. It's going to be very light and soft on its own, but you can see that it does impart color. So it's not truly a topper shade. And yeah, let's go ahead and line the eyes. You know, I think first let's go into this blue, and I have to say that it feels more like one of the toppers in the pan, which, you know, those are a little bit firmer. So I picked up plenty of product to put right here in the inner corner. Oh, you know what? Probably not a good idea. Let me take that off. I wiped it a little bit, but, you know, now it's kind of like black eye kind of thing. Wasn't a smart move. I'm just going to take a little bit of the purple and go over that portion here. I think this purple shade's really pretty. I really like that one. Well, let's go ahead. We'll go into this sparkly topper here on the bottom. Or I don't think this is a topper. This will probably be like the one in the 108. We're going to use this as a liner. Yep, it's definitely more pigmented. Right, and just using what's left on the brush for the lower lash line. All right, and for lips, I'm taking the SUQQU Sheer Matte in 03. This is one of the permanent shades in the collection. So that's one sheer layer, and you can see it's a really pretty berry shade. So this is the final eye look from a distance. And you know, I'm gonna go wash up and we've got another look to do. All right, so I have the Cislaya Teint followed by the Rodeo Glass Powder. We're gonna go into this last shade that I haven't tried yet. So this is the first one on the bottom row. It almost looks like a brick red with a touch of mauve in it. We'll see. You can see that there are shimmer particles in it. And you can definitely see them putting them on. This is the SUQQU Blush Brush, by the way, from Selfridges. These brushes are exclusive to Selfridges. They are the SUQQU Goat Hair brushes, and you can only get them at Selfridges, which means that these kits, I believe, are only going to be available at Selfridges. When the collection is fully launched at the other retailers, I don't know whether they will have like their own sets with a different brush in there or what, but these exact sets are only going to be available at Selfridges. So this is the reddish shade. What do you think? I'd love to know what your favorite shade is in the palette. Typically with blush palettes like this, I do like to mix and match usually as well. Let's add a little highlight. We're just gonna add a touch of the peachy pink highlight, and we're using the Kyoto Premium brush. Just a little tiny bit. And I'm gonna add some of this right under the brows. A little bit more here. All right, we're moving on to the 109 palette, and I'm going to use the crease brush from the SUQQU Selfridges line. We're going into the purple, and I'm going to put this in the crease. This shade, though, is like beautiful for a one and done. If you're looking for a cooler tone shade for that, I think it's really pretty. It has like a bit of a grayish hue. All right, and then I'm going to go into this blue shade here. Just want to show you what that looks like just on plain lid. So you can see that there is some blue product that you can see, but it is very, very light. It really is more of a topper shade. And by the way, I'm using the worker brush from Sonia G in the Lotus set. We're going to go into this deepish shade down at the bottom, and curious about this. It's a really pretty color. Okay, just taking what's left to kind of spread over the rest of the mobile lid. Okay, I'm wiping the brush off, and I'm just going to softly go over the mobile lid again with no additional shadow. And you can see, if you look closely at the shimmer, there is some pinkish shimmer that actually looks like this shade here. So I find that pretty interesting. You can see when I move more the inner third, you can see a little bit more of that pinky shade that I did not use this time. And I fully washed my face since last time. So there's no like residue or anything. Yeah, I think that's just part of the shade. You can see the way the light hits it. You see a little glint of that. So let's see what this metallic shade looks like on the inner corner. And this is the Sonia G Pencil Pro. Wasn't sure if I'd like that or not. I think it's okay. It's not something that I would probably do very often. I'm gonna go ahead and take the worker brush and just kind of soften that a little bit. And then on the lower lash line, I'm gonna go into the purple, and we'll just see. I wanna know what kind of effect this has, because it can might be like a touch brightening, or it could make it look more bruised. We'll see. What do you think? Not brightening. Okay, let's take that off. All right, so wipe that with my microfiber cloth. We're gonna go into the glimmery shade, the last shade, and just add a touch of this to lower lash line. All right, so that is the final eye look. I am gonna add some liner to the upper lash line. I'm gonna take the Victoria Beckham eye cudgel in Ash and just gently smudging that a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna add some mascara and I'll see you in a second. And this is the final eye look up close. And let's add some lipstick. Okay, so we're gonna start with a lip liner. This is the Dior lip liner in 760 Favorite. You can see I'm holding the pencil loosely and just barely scratching on here because I'm gonna blur this. All right, so that's my lip liner. Very messy, blurred, press it together. And then we're gonna go in with the 105 lipstick. So I got that. Now I'm just gonna take my finger and blur it a little bit. All right, so here's the lipstick. And again, I just blurred the edges a bit so you can't really, you know, it looks a little blurred, soft focus, kind of like You've Been Kissed. And this is the final look from a distance. So again, we have the Brick Red blush on with a very small touch of the pink highlighter, the 105 lipstick, and this is the 109 palette using the deepest shade. So I hope that was helpful. I really think that both of these palettes actually work really well together. If you take this top row, I think that would make a nice palette, and this bottom row makes a nice palette. I really like using these shades here, which are the upper right-hand corner of the palettes, this brown and this lavender. I really like those as one and done shades. If I had to pick my favorite shades out of the palettes, it would be these two plus these deeper shades right below them for both palettes. But I have to say overall, between the two quads, I actually prefer the warmer one, 108. I really like all of the shades in here. I find this like pale gold to be really useful. And in contrast, I find this blue one not quite as, I don't know, like I just don't like it as much. And I'm not huge on this pinker shade, but it's a personal preference. I just don't typically go for shades like that quite so much. Thought I would really love that blue one, but unfortunately I don't know, it's a little bit too sheer for, like if it was more pigmented like these bottom shades, I think I would like it more. Or if it was a little bit brighter and worked better as a pop of color in the inner corner or something, I think I would like it better. So for me, it's kind of just in that middle ground. But if I had to pick between the two palettes, it would be this one. Now, as for the cheek palettes, the 101, the 102, and the 103, I really like all three of them. But if I were to pick one out of all three, it would be this one because first of all, I like the new highlighter formula. I like it being a little bit more sheer. And I feel like they really nailed the formula on these this time, whereas 101 and 102, they're both like a little bit different from each other. Both good, don't get me wrong. I like both of them. But I feel like this one here is kind of a happy marriage between the two formulas and it works well. I think these tones in here, you've got a nice mix of cooler and warmer tones as well. And I don't find anything overpowering, and I feel like everything works fairly well together. Now they all do have a little bit of a sheen, so that is a personal preference. Just keep that in mind if this is something you're interested in. Now again, I did pick these up as sets, so I got the brushes here as well. So this is the SUQQU squirrel hair cheek brush versus the goat hair here. You can see that they have a similar shape, but this one is a little bit bigger, a little more voluminous, and you can see this one actually has a rounder ferrule as well. It's more pinched in the goat. I think it is a nice brush. You can tell, hopefully you can see on the camera, like these fibers, these hairs, you can see they're a little bit wavier compared to the squirrel hair ones, which are a little bit finer and straighter. It performs really well and it's very soft, so no issues with it. And then we have 2 eyeshadow brushes. So the SUQQU squirrel hair brushes I have, I don't have brushes exactly like this, so I don't have a comparison for those. But again, these are going to be goat, and you know, this is a really nice blending brush. It's very soft to use. It performs really well, and you can see it's not super floppy, so you're going to get enough pressure without really applying pressure to move and blend the shadows effortlessly. This one here, I really like for lining. This angling here works really well, and it's like the perfect width up here. So I think it's a really great brush. I would definitely recommend looking into these sets. I think these sets are a really great opportunity. Really like them. However, you know, you can buy them separately if you're not interested in those, or these brushes are sold separately at Selfridges as well. As for the lipstick, I like these sheer matte formulas. I think they're nice, and so I wanted to pick up another one of those. I was very curious about this red in comparison to the number 9 that I already had. You can see it's warmer. I really like it though. I think it's a really nice, easy to wear red. I like being able to wear it very sheer. You can put on just a tiny bit, and yeah, if you put on just a little bit, unless you're using a brush or something, it doesn't look super even, right? You saw like when I first swiped it on, rub your lips together, put on some lip gloss, you have a very sheer red that's easy to wear and is not in your face. So I think, you know, the versatility of these sheer formula lipsticks is really nice. Now, as for sheer matte and velvets and so forth, you know, these are one of my top formulas. So I really like the Givenchy sheer velvets, and then these come after that. So those are kind of my favorite 2 formulas like that. Not that there are a ton of formulas like that to try yet, but I really like them. I don't really think there's gonna be too much that beats them. I think they're really fantastic, and they're just really well thought out and executed. So as for the SUQQU pre-holiday collection itself, I actually think it was a fantastic collection. When I first saw the photos, I was like, oh, it looks too much like the 03 palette, looks too much like the summer palette and so forth. And I was like, maybe I don't need them. Even when I saw swatches, it's like, maybe I don't need them. But as I got closer and closer to the pre-order date at Selfridges, I got more and more interested. And I have to say, I'm so glad I did, because I really like these palettes. Again, I would pick, if I were trying to narrow things down, I'd pick the 108 and the cheek palette, you know, and I'd skip the 109, but that's not to say I don't like it. I am happy to have both of them, and I do think combining the 108 and the 109, you know, picking and choosing colors among there, you get a great palette as well. But I really like those top rows together. Like, that's definitely a palette I would like to see on its own. So before we go, just a little bit of information about these, just in case you haven't seen this yet, but we've got a beautiful, like, sparkly top in here for the pre-holiday collection. So this is new. This is on the eyeshadow palettes, but not on the cheek palette. The cheek palette is going to have the black and the gold, and the other ones, the 1 and the 2, are going to be like that as well. So you can see, you know, the cheek palette, although it's limited edition, it doesn't have the same pre-holiday packaging. So both of the eyeshadow quads have this. I like that. I like how they stand out a bit more. They also notify you that they are sparkly palettes. So as for these, you know, all of these items are made in Japan. So SUQQU is made in Japan. The cheek palettes in Japan, the eyeshadows are in Japan. And the eyeshadows have a 1-year shelf life once opening. They're 6.2 grams. The cheek palette is 16.5 grams. And then the lipstick, you know, again, just remember, it doesn't come with its own real cap. These are 4 grams, also made in Japan. And the brushes are made in Japan as well. So I think overall it's a really, really well thought out collection. I really like it, and I think it's one that actually is going to, it's classic. The 108 is a classic combination. It's actually similar to the Givenchy holiday palette. Let me show you that real quickly. So this is the Givenchy holiday palette. I'm just going to swatch a few of these so you can kind of see. Now, this color story, it's only similar in the fact that you've got kind of like those browns and the golds, but the tones of it are very different. So here are some of the golds there, and the browns in here are going to be like much deeper than in the SUQQU palette. But you can see that even though the tones are different, the theme is similar, and that's kind of what I meant. So I think they're both like really classic options, and they go really well together, which is nice. So I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon. So have a great day and stay safe and healthy.